Hey guys, it's Edie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all doing well, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my April reading wrap up. So like always, I'm just going to go through all the books I've read this month, all the books on my TBR that I wanted to read this month that I didn't get to read as well, and I'm going to tell you some little statistics that I've got in my reading journal. I've been doing this, I done this every month this year, done my little statistics, I don't know, but I definitely done it last month. But this was like kind of my theme this month. I'd done like a honeycomb sort of like bee sort of theme, and this is just how I do it because I just like to keep track of what I've read and what I rated them, because sometimes I kind of forget what I read when, and it's just nice to know, and it's nice to just keep track of it all. So this month I read 14 books, 11 of them were romance and 3 of them were fantasy. I read 8 physical books, 5 Kindles, and I had 1 e-arc. And my longest book that I read this month was Puckin' Sweet by Emily Raff, and the shortest book I read this month was Puckin' Ever After Volume 2 by Emily Raff. And that's basically my little sum up of my little summary. So I'm going to go into the books that were on my physical TBR, and I'm going to do the ones that I didn't get to just so I can get those out of the way and move on to the books that I have read and why I rated them. So I always pick 6 books for my TBR each month, and I actually read 3 of them and I haven't read the other 3. So these are the 3 that I haven't read. We've got Under Lock and Key by Lorna Ferguson, Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stevens, and then the final one I didn't read was Blockshot by Kennedy Ryan. There's no reason to any of these, I didn't read them, I just didn't have time to pick them up, and I don't know, I just didn't have time to pick them up, and I do want to read them, and I will eventually hopefully get round to reading these. So now I'm going to go on to the books that I did read from my physical TBR that I'd done for the month. The first one was Puckin' Wild by Emily Raff, and this is the second book in the Jacksonville Ray series, and I gave this book 4 stars because I did really like it. And this book follows Tess and Ryan is one of the, I believe he's a forward on the Jacksonville Rays hockey team, and Tess has recently just gotten out of an engagement from a guy she's been with since college. No, he was his ex, she's his ex-husband. They were actually married and they were been together since college, but they split up, and she's trying to get away from him. So she runs to her best friend that works on the Jacksonville Rays, Rachel, which is the first book is about in this series, and she's basically like, I need somewhere to stay, I need to get away from her ex-husband and everything that's going on. So Rachel was like, oh, you can stay in this place because she's in a I can never say that word, polyamorous relationship with 3 guys, and they still own one of the places the guys live. So she's like, oh, you can go stay in his place, stay there, don't have to worry. So she does, and then Ryan ends up injuring himself, and he lives in this split level house thing, and because he injures himself he can't really go back to his own house because he won't be able to get around his house. So one of the hockey players, I can't remember which one it is, I think it's Mars, says, because it is Mars's place that Tess is staying in, Mars is like, oh, my place is free, you can go stay there. But his place is not free because Rachel has given the place to Tess. So Ryan and Tess end up living together in Mars's old place, and it just kind of goes from there. And this whole series is just full of so much spice, and it is actually really good. It doesn't take away from the storyline because these books are very thick, so you still get to explore the storyline and you still get to have bits of spicy scenes, so I guess it's a win-win. But I did really like this book. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the storyline, the things that were going on with the ex-husband, and all of that sort of stuff was so good. And the love confession Ryan gave Tess, it was just so good, and I felt such a connection to Ryan as a character because he struggles with dyslexia throughout this book, and I feel like it's really portrayed really well because I struggle with it, and I'm like, it was just so nice seeing a character have struggles that I have and seeing it on pages, and it was just so well written, and the way things happened for Ryan, and I was like, those things have happened to me before, and I just felt so seen while reading it. And also when I was reading this book, I remember all the little crumbs you were getting for Poppy, Novi, Maro I think, which the third book in this series is about, and I was just eating it up. And I did end up reading the third book in this series, Puck and Sweet, but I'm just going to get to that once I get to that bit in the review of this video. Like I said, I gave this book 4 stars. The second book I picked up from my physical TBR was Vitello, I think that's how you pronounce it, by Cora Riley. And this is like a prequel, like sort of novella to the, I believe it's Born in Chronicles or something, Born in something series. Does it say in here? It's like just a mafia romance. It is. No, it doesn't really say in here. I gave this book 3 stars, and I'm also going to talk about the other book, the first book technically in the series I read, which is Bound by Honor by Cora Riley, and I gave this 3.5 stars because basically both these books follow the same timeline and the exact same things happen, but they're from 2 different point of views. So this one's from the MMC's point of view and this one's from the FMC's point of view. But basically what these 2 books are about is like they're 2 rival mafia families. I believe one is like Chicago and one is New York, and to bring peace between these 2 families, the head of the Chicago Mafia, he has like 3 daughters, and he's said to like arranged a marriage between the son of the head of the New York Mafia. So this is like an arranged mafia romance marriage, and I did like it. I will say there is like the cheating trope in this, but it is cheating, but it's like a fine line. I wasn't the biggest fan of that. So if you don't like that, you might not like these 2 books, but I still really enjoyed them. And my favourite trope is marriage of convenience, arranged sort of marriage, anything like that, because like the forced proximity and all of that sort of stuff is just so good. Because I actually read Bound by Honor first, because even though this is like a prequel novella, it's suggested that you read this one first and then read it from Luca's point of view. So that's what I did. And it was my first ever time reading a book by Cora Riley, and I did really like her writing. I liked the writing style, that's the same thing. I like the storyline, I like the family, and I'm really looking forward to carrying on this series because some of like the snippets you get of like couples that could be to come, I'm really excited for that. In Bound by Honor, you don't really get much of the in-depth things that go on in the mafia like world, you could say, because you're only getting this from Ari, is that her name? I think it was, yeah, Ari's point of view. So you don't really get to see like the gruesome sort of like mafia-esque sort of things. If you read about a mafia book, you know what I mean by that. But when you read Luca Villetto, you do get that because that is from Luca's point of view. And I just remember the ending part of like the books, like I think it's probably the last maybe like 20-30% of each book, like that's where everything went down, and there was just so much happening. I was like, whoa, and it was just so many twist after turn after twist, and it was just really good, and I did really enjoy it. And if you haven't read this mafia like books series and you like mafia romance, like I would recommend these 2. I haven't read the rest of the series, so I don't know, but so far I really do like this series and I see the potential this series has. And the final book that I read from my TBR for this month was Slapshot by Chelsea Caruto, and this is the 3rd book in the DC Stars, which is another hockey romance. This book follows Hudson and Madeline. Hudson is like looking for like a private chef because he hates having to go home after like hockey practice or hockey games and having to like meal prep, cook food, all of this. He just wants it to be there and ready for him when he comes home so he can just chuck it in the oven or things like that. So he's been looking for like that private chef for ages, and everyone he's tried, they've always been like wanting to be into him more than like actually being his chef. They don't care about really being his chef, if that makes sense. Madeline works in like a famous restaurant in Vegas, and like in the past book, the the hockey team went and played a game in Vegas and they met Madeline there. Well, Piper, who is like the to do with the social media and broadcasting and all of that, she met Madeline there and they like stayed in touch. And Madeline's like restaurant she works in like shuts down, she needs something, so she rings up Piper just to, I guess they're just talking, and she's like, oh, I know someone. So then then Madeline ends up working for Hudson. Madeline also is a single mother, so this is like a single mother hockey romance, and instead of like Madeline trying to find somewhere for her and her daughter to live, Hudson's like, oh, you might as well just come live with me, and then you won't have to like commute to get here to be able to cook food. And in the evening, if like she needed to cook food for Hudson, she wouldn't have to leave her daughter or find childcare. Her daughter would just stay in the place because it'd be Hudson's place and she'd be working there. So she ends up also moving in with Hudson. So it's a forced proximity, you could say, roommates, single mum, hockey romance, and oh, I just loved it so much. I don't think I said what I rated this. I gave this a 5 stars. It was absolutely phenomenal. Definitely my favourite book in the series so far. Hudson is literally the sweetest guy ever, and all the things he'd done for like Madeline and her daughter was just so good. And he learnt something for Madeline's daughter. I'm not going to say what, but if you've read the other books in this series, you probably know what it is. But he learnt something for her daughter, and like it brought tears to my eyes. I was crying when like he was doing it. It's just so sweet, and it just kind of shows the type of guy he is. This book had me crying quite a few times. I was crying happy tears, I was crying sad tears, I was crying from laughter, especially like the group team, like the hockey team dynamic. It's just so good. That's what I love about this series so much, especially the like group chats they all have. They're absolutely hilarious, they are. I also think like the team dynamic in this book is my favourite like team dynamic that I've ever read from any like sort of sports romance, because I don't know, it's just so good and never fails to make me laugh when they're all together. And like they're all so close-knit, and they have these like weekly nights where they go to one another's houses and they just don't talk about anything hockey, they just hang out and have fun, and it's just so much fun and nice to see that side of that. The romance was everything in this book. I was like giggling, I was kicking my feet, I was blushing, it was giving me all the feels. And Hudson was just such a great guy, because Madeline had a previous like her relationship with the father of her daughter. After, when the daughter was born, he kind of just went away, so she kind of is finding it very hard to trust people, and Hudson was just so patient with her, and it was just so sweet to see him like that. And I just love this book so much. I don't know if you could tell, and he has a dog who is just the sweetest thing, and I just love the dog. And I just love Hudson. He is just so good. If you haven't already and you love sports romance or hockey romance specifically, read this series, because I am having a feeling this is becoming one of my top favourite hockey romance series. So if you haven't, read it. The first book in the series was called Face Off, then the next one is Power Play, and then it's Slapshot. The next book in the series is coming out in May, I want to say, and it's called Hat Trick, and I'm just so excited. So now I'm going to be moving on to all the books that weren't on my like TBR that I've read this month. The first one was Sky Shade by Alex Aster, and this is the third book in the, I don't know what the series is called, but the first book in the series is called Light Lark, so I don't know if that's the name of the series. I can't really say much about this book because this is the third book in the series and I don't want to spoil it. But I ended up giving this book a 3 stars because I do feel like the plot of this book was a bit all over the place at some times. Like, some things didn't quite make sense to me. But what brought my rating up was Grimm, because I absolutely love him. I have an obsession with Grimm. I'm a Grimm girl over Oro because, I don't know, just Grimm hits different for me. This whole series revolves almost around the love triangle, and it's gotten to the 3rd book and I'm getting a bit tired of this love triangle. Like, come on, just choose one, girl. I'm like, I understand that you like them both, and I guess for different reasons, but I'm like, just choose one. Better be Grimm, but choose one, please, because it's just getting a bit too repetitive at this point for me. I don't know what it is. I am liking the series, but it's just gotten to the point where it's just almost, the plot's different, but like with the relationships, it's just the same over and over and over again. But I like this because this is like a very heavy Grimm book. And I feel like if it wasn't for this love triangle, I probably wouldn't continue this series, because the storyline in general I'm not the biggest fan of. I thought it was alright. But the funny thing is, I really liked the first book in the series because I gave that 4 stars and I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it, but I feel like after the first book it's just gone downhill for me from there. And like I said, if it wasn't for the love triangle, I probably wouldn't carry on reading it, and I'm only carrying on reading this series because I just want to find out what happened, who Isla ends up with, and I hope it's Grimm. That's all I hope for. I think I'm gonna have to take my jumper off because it's literally getting sweltering hot in here. It's like 20 degrees and I'm like, I don't even know why I put a jumper on. So I think I'm gonna have to take this off, otherwise I'm just gonna like melt, and I don't want that. That is so much better. I don't even know why I put a jumper on this morning because it's getting to 20 plus degrees. My bedroom's in like the converted loft, so if you have a bedroom in a converted loft or attic or whatever you want to call it, you know the struggles of like summer heat in those bedrooms, because there's nowhere for the heat to escape. The heat just stays in your room. So yeah, I probably shouldn't have put that on this morning, but anyway, I'm just rambling about random things now, so let me get the next book that I read last month, yeah, in April. So the next book I read was The Front Runner by Elsie Silver, and this is the third book in the Gold Rush Ranch series, which is the first series she's ever written. This book follows Stefan and Mira. Mira is like a vet and she looks after animals on the ranches and makes sure they're all right. And Stefan owns a rival ranch to the Gold Rush Ranch, so he's kind of always in like competition to them, especially when they're doing the horse races and things like that. And this book starts off at one of the horse races, and ever since that point Stefan has always been asking Mira, would you go on a date with me? Please go on a date with me. And he asked her multiple times and she's always like, no, I don't want to. But then it kind of got almost as a joke, him asking, I guess, in a way you could say. It wasn't in like a creepy, forceful way. But like, Mira is like working on Gold Rush Ranch where all the horses are giving birth. And something happens where she's like, oh, I might need to go ask someone for help. So she ends up asking Stefan for a favour. And he's like, I will help you, only if you go on 3 dates with me. So she reluctantly agrees because she wants to save a baby foal. Is that what horses are called when they're babies? I think they are, foals. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but that's what I'm going with. So she does it to try and save the foal, and she ends up having to go on 3 dates with Stefan, and then they kind of like slowly start hanging out, spending more time with each other, and they slowly start falling in love with each other. I don't even think I said what I rated this book at the beginning. If I didn't, I gave this a 4.25 stars. And so far, out of the 3 books I've read from this series, this is my favourite book so far from it. I still got one more book to read from this series. I can't think of what the name is. It's not a photo finish, it's not a full start, maybe? I'm not sure, but I've still got the 4th book and final book in the series to read, but out of the 3 I've read, this is my favourite so far. And Stefan is such a misunderstood person. Like, people are always so quick to judge him on certain things throughout this book. And I absolutely loved Mira as a character because she was never quick to judge Stefan. She always just saw him as who he was, and deep down he was just a really good guy. He just came off a bit grumpy at times, but he was just so misunderstood, and I didn't hate that aspect of it, but it just kind of annoyed me when people just assumed the worst out of him, even when he wasn't. It's just because he came across as quite a grumpy guy. And Stefan fell first, definitely, in this book, and it always just made me happy because he was never like shy away from showing like Mira his feelings for her. He was just so open and so, this is how I feel about you. And I just really appreciate that in this book. There's this big scene at the end and it just really kind of like shocked me, and when it was like all happening and all going down, I had tears in my eyes, but it was quite good. There is a third act breakup / like sort of conflict in this book, and when something else got revealed like throughout this whole book, I was like, oh, that's gonna be the problem for their like what they have to work through at the end of the book. And I was correct, that's what they did have to end up working through and what led them to breaking up for a spell. But I kind of wasn't mad at it, because sometimes I am mad at third act breakups, but this one I didn't really get mad at because I understood where the characters were coming from, and I understood why both characters did what they did, and also why it hurt each of the other character. But once I finish the final book in this series, I'm going to be up to date with all of Elsie Silver's like books, and I'm not going to have any more Elsie Silver books to read, which is kind of sad. But yeah, that is my thoughts and feelings on this book. The next book I read was Fearless by Lauren Roberts, and I gave this a 3.75 stars. And this book is the 3rd book in the trilogy, and it's the final one, but there is going to be another novella, which I'm very interested to see what that is about. But this whole trilogy follows Payden and Kai, and Paige is like this ordinary, she has no powers, but she's kind of like masking in the first book that she does have powers to like all the elites that have powers. And it's basically like in the first book it was like a trial games sort of thing. This is quite similar to the Powerless, the first book in the series, in that aspect, because it is like a Paige has to go through these 3 like trials that she has to do to be able to do something. I don't really want to say much else because I don't want to spoil this book for you, but I feel like most people know what this series is about because this is such a popular like book series. But I did like this book, I just didn't like it as much as the first and second book in this series. I don't know what it was about this, but it just didn't hit the same for me. Chapters like 45 to 49 took me on such an emotional roller coaster. If you know, you know, but like one minute I was like crying my eyes out, the next minute I'm in shock, then the next minute I'm laughing. Like those whole couple of chapters, like literally I was up and down with my emotions. Like the things that were going on in those chapters were crazy. Because this is the last book in this series, I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't have any questions, but after finishing this I have some questions, especially about Kit and surrounding Kit and what he'd done in this book. Like the things he does, the actions and all the things like that. I'm like, Kit, what are you doing? But I'm kind of hoping maybe in the novella we will get answers about it, because I need to know for my peace of mind. But I'm thinking maybe the novella could be this book from Kit's point of view, because we don't get Kit's point of view at all in this book, apart from the epilogue, I believe. But in the second book in this series, Reckless, you get Kit's point of view throughout the book. So I'm hoping maybe the novella would be Kit's point of view throughout this book. Fingers crossed, because I just want to know what was going through his mind when he done things in this book. I did like the romance in this book, but I feel like it just quite wasn't hitting the same as the first 2 books. I don't want to say why, I was just about to say why it wasn't kind of hitting the same because of a circumstance, but I'm not going to say that circumstance, because if you haven't read this trilogy at all, I don't want to like spoil the series for you. But the circumstance that Paden was in, it kind of made the relationship dynamic between Kai and Paden a bit different, and to me that wasn't just hitting the same as the first 2 books. And I did like this book, I just wanted a tiny bit more out of it. So the next book I picked up was Wild and Wrangle by Lila Sage, and this is the 4th and final book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and I gave this book a 4.75 stars. This book follows Cam and Dusty, and Cam has recently just gotten out of an engagement to a guy, and she's gone back to Meadow Walk, and she needs to somewhere to live with her daughter because she's a single mother, even though she co-parents with the father of her child and she's still like really good friends with him. She's still technically a single mother, and because she has nowhere to stay, she's staying with the dad of her daughter for like a couple of days. And Dusty has also recently just moved back to Meadow Walk, and he's currently working on the main ranch there. And Cam finds like this like dream house that she wants to move into. Like when she was a teenager, she used to see this house and she used to be like, that's my dream house, I want to live there. And it becomes available to rent, so she snaps it up quickly, it's a good deal, and her and her daughter move in there. But who happens to live in like the little house shed at the back of the property is Dusty. And Dusty and Cam have like this history, they have a past. They were together as teenagers through high school when they were like 15 to probably maybe, I don't know how old they were, no, I think they were more around the age of maybe like 17 when they were like dated in high school. And then something happened which caused them not to be together anymore and split up. And this is the first time they've properly seen each other, like, or like spent quite a bit of time with each other since the breakdown of their relationship from when they were in high school. And I believe it takes place like 15 years after they've like broken up. And this book was so good. This was actually the perfect way to finish this series. I couldn't think of anything better, a better way to finish it. And I'm just so sad that this series is over, but I'm also very excited and intrigued to see what Lila Sage is going to do next, because this is probably one of my top favourite like small town romance series, along with like Elsie Silver books, because statistically, star rating wise, I've given every book in this series a 4.5 and above, so it's got to be a pretty good series for me to give each book a 4.5 and stars and above. Dusty and Cam's story is just so beautiful, and it's like, it was everything I expected to be and more, and it was just so beautifully written, and like the history they had and the chemistry they had, it was just chef's kiss. And the man Dusty it is, oh, that was everything. I also really loved Cam as a character, because in the beginning of the book she always put other people's happiness before hers, but she slowly started to like figure out, oh, I should be putting my own happiness before anyone else's. And I just loved the character development point for Cam and how she just developed throughout this whole book. My camera just overheated with how hot it is in this room and how long I've been filming this video already. But anyway, I was still in the middle of like saying things about this book, but you get like flashback scenes of their relationship, what it was like when they were in high school as teenagers together, and I really did like that. I like seeing where their relationship started and how it grew throughout the years when they were in high school and what broke them apart originally. And I loved seeing that, because I loved seeing how much they have grown as characters and how much has changed them since they were teenagers and when they used to be together. But I don't know why this book wasn't just quite giving me that 5-star feeling, so I just couldn't quite give it a 5-star. It was just so close to being 5 stars, but I just didn't have that feeling, and I feel like you've got to have that feeling when you're reading a book to give it 5 stars, well, for me anyway at least. But it was a 4.75 stars, which I think I've already said. The next book I read was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, and I gave this a 4.5 stars, and this book follows Javier and Samantha, and Javier is like a vet for like animals, and Samantha finds, I believe she finds a cat on the street, and she takes it to him to be able to like make sure it's alright and get her like all good and better, because she isn't in the greatest shape, this cat. And then she ends up going back to him, and then they end up going on this date, but she isn't going to be staying where he lives, because she is going to have to move back home to California to be with her family, because her mother's got like dementia or Alzheimer's, or one of the two, or them together. I'm not 100% sure which one, but her mum's not very well, so she's going back home to be with her family to help them all look after her mum, because they've chosen not to send their mum into like a care home, and they've chosen to keep her at home to look after her. So they have this amazing date, but they can't really, Samantha's like, we can't really be together because I'm not going to be here. So she goes to California, he stays where they are. Javier can't forget it, because it's such this incredible and amazing time he had with her. So I believe he goes to California to see her, and then they start having this like long distance relationship with each other. And this book was so good, and it's a typical like Abby Jimenez book, and I just love them so much, because they always touch on like almost not tougher subjects, but things that almost aren't like shown enough or portrayed enough in books. And I just really love that about Abby Jimenez and her writing. She's not like, she doesn't shy away from writing tougher things and tougher subjects. I just loved how realistic this book was with a lot of things, but especially with like a long distance relationship, and how tough it can be, and how mentally and physically exhausting and draining that can be. Because there was one point where Javier was physically like just drained, but he still managed to somehow go see Samantha. And this book made me feel so many emotions, so many heart-wrenching moments. There was happy moments, sad moments, funny moments. It was just all in this book. I am an Akatar fan, but the fact Rhysand and like Akatar and Bat Boys were mentioned like, I think it was mentioned like 3 times within the space of like 20 to 30 pages. I was like, that is just a bit too much. I can understand reference it maybe once, yes, but like 3 times? No. But it was because people kept saying, oh, Javier looks like Rhysand, he's the human version of Rhysand. And I get that, but I only need to hear about that once, not like 3 times. So I thought that was a bit too much. Also, I do kind of wish you got to see more of their relationship after they would finally be able to be together after not being long distance anymore, because you only get to really see one chapter of that, and I was like, I just want to see more of them actually living together and actually being in the same place and not having to do long distance anymore. That was the only thing I kind of like wish I got out of this book that I didn't. The next book I picked up was Watch Me by Tahara Mafi, and this is the first book in the new spin-off series for the Shatter Me series, and I was just so happy to be back in this world. I ended up giving this book a 4 stars, and this book follows James and Rosalie. James is actually Aaron Warner's like half like brother, and this book takes place 10 years after the Shatter Me series finished. Rosalie is still living in the Ark Island where the New Republic are, and it's the only place the New Republic are at this current point, because in the Shatter Me world the New Republic ruled over the whole world, but now they only have Ark Island. And Ark Island is so hard to get onto, but somehow James manages to get onto Ark Island, and he sees Rosalie and he kind of helps out Rosalie, but then Rosalie's like, you're not going to be able to get off Ark Island, I'll help you get off. And she is kind of got this incentive to like help him get off. I'm not going to say what because I don't want to spoil it, but they managed to get off Ark Island. They managed to get back to the re-establishment, to where Aaron, Juliet, Kenji, all of the OGs are there, and you get to see them, and it was just so good. I absolutely had the time of my life while reading it. Like I said, I loved being back in the Shatter Me world, and it did not disappoint me one bit. It was just so much fun, such a good storyline, and I just loved all the old characters, all the new characters. I really liked Rosalie as a character, and I don't know why I found this so funny, but the fact that James is taller than Aaron, I don't know why, but that just made me giggle when I read that. The tension between James and Juliet, Rosalie, was just so good. Like, you could just cut it with a knife. It was just phenomenal. And I really liked this book because there was actually no like romance sort of things in it. It was just purely like the storyline and the plot and the characters, and I kind of really did appreciate there being not really any romance in it, because it kind of is leading up to like a slow burn romance between James and Rosalie, and I'm just really looking forward to the other books in this series being able to get that, like, see the more of the tension and the build up maybe to the first kiss and the build up to the relationship. Usually when I'm reading a fantasy book, I really do like when there's like a quite a heavy romance storyline in it, but even though this does have like a presence of almost, oh, this is going to be a romantic relationship, it doesn't step into that romantic, like, I don't know what to call it, but I think you know what I mean. And I really did like the plot of this book, and I do have some questions after that ending. It kind of left off in a little cliffhanger, and I'm like, I need to know what's going to happen. I need the next book in this series. I assume it's hopefully going to come out sometime next year, but I need that now. And the way Aaron is still as obsessed with Juliet in this book as he was throughout the whole Shatter Me series was just everything to me, and he is very, very overprotective of her in this book. I'm not going to say why or what, you're just going to have to read to find out, but I'm so excited for them. It makes me so happy to see them like this, and it was just so phenomenally good. Kenji made me laugh quite a few times while reading this book, and his and Juliet's like friendship is still as strong as ever. I just love them together, and they're so funny. And you find out something that happened to Kenji between the timeline of the end of the Shatter Me series and the beginning of this book, and that made me so sad for him. I was like, no, why Kenji? Why can't he just be happy? Let my boy be happy. But I'm very interested to see where that kind of can go, because I assume there's going to be more on that, I'm hoping, but I don't know. I'm just going to have to wait and see until the next book, and I guess the rest of the series comes out, but I really did enjoy this. The next book I picked up was Plucking Ever After by Emily Raff, and this is the second volume, and basically this is just like a little novella which has like some little short stories of Tess and Ryan, and you get some of Rachel, Ilamar, Jake, and what's the other guy? I can't remember the other guy's name, that's really bad. But you get like little novellas of what their life is like past the point of the ending of their books, and I just really enjoyed this. And I gave this 4 stars because I did really like seeing more of the characters, because I do really like the characters, I really like the series, and this book did actually make me cry a few times because of the certain things that are happening, and I also did laugh, and it was just really good. And I always find it's hard to rate novellas because they're not like full-length novels, but this book is still like, well, this novella is still like over 200. It's so 233 pages long, so it's still quite a long book. Well, a long book for a novella, I could say, but I did like it. Did I say I gave it 4 stars? I don't know, but that's what I rated this book. The next book I picked up was Pumpkin Sweet by Emily Raff, and this is the 3rd book in the Jacksonville Ray series, and I gave this book a 5 stars. And this book follows Poppy, Novi and Maro. If you can hear like some noise in the background now, it's because these people have decided to start doing work on my road now, but I need to get this filmed so I can, because I'm going to Spain tomorrow, I need this filmed so I can edit it and upload it for the, I believe I'm uploading this 5th of May, I'm not really sure. But anyway, I think I was like explaining this book. And because the Jacksonville Rays is like a new hockey team, Poppy has been hired to be the like head of the public relations, I believe it is. And so she has to deal with like the players and anything that happens to them and try and not make it as bad as it is for like the social media and things like that. And one of the problem players is Lucas Novi for short, basically, and he's always out partying, he likes to sleep around, so he's a PR person's like kind of like worst nightmare, I guess you could say. Colton Marrow is like the complete opposite of Novi. He's the sweetest guy, he doesn't really sleep around, they're just complete opposites. But Poppy ends up having a crush on both of them and ends up liking them, but she's like, nope, I can't go there, they're the players, I can't cross that boundary. But she ends up crossing that boundary, and Poppy finds out this devastating thing that her sister has done to her, and she ends up falling into a relationship with the 2 guys. So this is like another polyamorous relationship, because the first book in the series is one and this one is, but this one's 2 guys 1 girl, where the first one in the series is 3 guys 1 girl. I don't know if any of that made sense, I hope it does. This book is definitely my favourite book in the series, and Emily Raff knows how to write spice to like plot ratio in a good way, because there was a lot of spice but there was still a lot of plot, and it didn't take away from the story or anything like that. And the spice in this was hot. Like the previous 2 books in this series, it has been hot, but oh, something about this one, I don't know what it was, but it was up there. I loved seeing like Lucas's character development, because at the beginning of the book he was very much like sleep around, he was a playboy, and the reason why he was kind of a playboy like that because he always struggled to like love people. But watching him throughout this book being able to love Poppy and Marrow, because the reason of why he is like he is because he grew up in not a great environment and he didn't really get shown love, so he struggles to find love with other people. And watching him grow throughout this book was just such a beautiful thing. Emily Raff knows how to write a strong, powerful, badass like FMC, and Poppy was no different from the other ones, and I absolutely loved her. And Colton, he was just like such a good guy, and he was like always trying to like make sure Poppy knew what she was worth, and he was always like, you need to fight for it, you're worth so much more than that, you deserve so much better. And he made her realise that yes, she did deserve so much better, she was so great at her job and she deserved like a better working space. I laughed out loud so many times while reading the book. I just love the dynamic of the characters, all the side characters, and this book had me crying at quite a few moments, especially at something that happens near the end. I'm not going to say what, but I was in tears. And also the way this book like sets up for the next book in this series, I'm very excited about it because I believe it's going to be like a male romance, and all the other books have been like a not straight, because 2 of them are polyamorous relationships, you could say, but they've always involved like a girl in the other relationships, where this one, the next one in the series, is just boy on boy. So I'm very excited for that because, like I said, how it sets up for us, and is it in the epilogue, I believe? I'm very, very intrigued about that. The next book I read was actually the E arc I got given, and I got the E arc of NetGalley, so thank you NetGalley for giving me the arc. And the book, I do have the physical copy of it because it is currently being republished, and I have the indie version of it on the paperback, so I'm just going to hold that up. But it's Live Laugh Brunch by Emma Lucy. I gave this a 4.25 stars, and this is like a small town romance. It's Grumpy Sunshine. She's like a wellness influencer. He's like a cowboy sort of vibe. It's kind of like enemies to lovers, but I would say it's more like of a dislike to lovers than enemies. And basically Aurora, or Rory, whatever you want to call her, her great aunt, I believe, has just died, and her great aunt had this ranch in America, and she is originally from the UK. So she has to go over there and sort out the ranch, and she wants to sell it and just go back to the UK. And that's all she wants to do with it. She doesn't want to stay there, she doesn't want to live there. So she goes to the US, goes to the ranch there. My camera overheated for the second time while filming this video, and I've left it like 15 minutes since I done it to try and keep it to cool down, so I can't really remember what I was saying, but I know I was talking about this book. I think I was saying something like, so Rory goes to the ranch to be able to go sell it, and when she's there she meets, I guess, the head rancher, which is Wyatt. And Wyatt is a very, very grumpy guy, and when he first meets Rory he doesn't particularly like her, you could say, because she's selling the ranch and he works on the ranch and he really loves this ranch. And then she kind of starts to see a different side of Wyatt when she goes out with him and his sister and his friends, and she sees this more fun, I guess, laid back, sort of like not as grumpy guy. And then she gets the idea of turning this ranch into like a wellness like sort of retreat. So she asks him, he's like, oh okay, I'm not, at first he's like not really sure, and then he kind of was like, okay, that's quite a good idea. So they end up turning the ranch into this like wellness retreat, but also keeping it a ranch as well at the same time. So she doesn't have to get rid of like Wyatt or any of the other employees, and she ends up wanting to stay in the US and not go back to the UK. I don't know if I said what I rated this book before I started speaking about it, but I gave this book a 3.25 stars. I did think this was a cute small town cowboy romance. I did like it, but it wasn't one of my favourites, and Aurora and Wyatt do have this very undeniable chemistry, and you can see that off the bat, but there was points where it became a bit repetitive, especially when describing I think it was Wyatt's eyes and Aurora's hair. They were just constantly, well, in each other's POV, they were just constantly just describing it, and I was like, I kind of get it. He has dark eyes and she has red hair. You don't need to say it every time you see the character. The last 20% of the book was quite chaotic. There was a lot of things going on, and it kept me wanting to read the book. I didn't want to put it down because I was like, I need to find out what's going to happen, what's going to lead to the next point, I guess you could say. And there was like this conflict in the end, and I didn't particularly like that. I wasn't the greatest fan of it. Overall, I do think this is a good book. This is an alright book. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And you get hints for the next couple in this series because this is the first book in the series, and I am quite looking forward to that book because I did look up to see if it would be the next book in the series, and it is. And it's like, will be a brother's best friend, because it'd be Wyatt's little sister and Wyatt's best friend, and I'm very excited about that because I do really like that trope. The last book I read was King of Envy, and I don't currently have a physical copy of it because I read it on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm still waiting for my signed copy to come, and it hasn't been delivered yet, but I only got released yesterday because I'm currently filming this on the 30th of April, so I still don't have the physical copy. So I'm just going to put a little picture of the cover on the screen here. But I ended up giving this book a 4 stars, and this book follows Ayana and Vuk. I believe that's how you pronounce their names. If I'm saying them wrong, I'm sorry. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. If you've watched any of my videos before, you know that. Ayana is a famous model, and she is engaged to be married to this like business guy, and the business guy is called, what's his name, Jordan, and Vuk, I'm really struggling with that. Vuk is Jordan's like best friend, and he's gonna be the best man of the wedding. And Vuk is like mute. He doesn't really like to speak to people. He's very he doesn't really speak at all in the first part of it, really, you could say. He likes to use sign language to communicate because of certain thing that happened in his life previously, and since then he hasn't really liked to speak. Even before Ayana was engaged to Jordan, Vuk always like knew about her through her modelling and always liked to watch her modelling, and he was just kind of always like obsessed with her, you could say. And he is down bad for Ayana, but he's marrying his best friend, so he can't really do too much about it. Obviously the engagement ends and they end up being together, but I'm not going to say why, so you're just going to need to find out and read the book to be able to figure out why. Anna Huang books always hit for me every single time, and this book was no different. I really enjoyed myself while reading it. The tension and the angst in this book was so good, and it just had me kicking and giggling my feet so many times. And the things like Vuk was like saying and like thinking, and the things he said in Serbian, I Google translate them, and they were so good. I loved how down bad Vuk was for Ayana. It was just everything, and the man was pining after her. He wanted her but couldn't have her, and I just loved it. And I really liked the storyline because she is a model, and there's things going on with her modelling agency, and there's things going on for Vuk with the Brotherhood, and like the things that were happening, and especially near the end of the book there was quite a few twists, quite a few turns, things I didn't see coming, but I thought the storyline was really good, the plot was amazing, and because of the twists and turns it made me not want to put this book down. Like, I started reading it this morning just before I filmed this video, and I was just literally binge read it because I was like, I need to read it, I need to know what's going to happen, I can't stop reading it because the twists and turns just kept happening. And what makes me love the series / the Aniverse so much is you get to see like the other characters from other series from this series, and it just makes me so happy when I see them. Like Stella and Christian from the Twisted series get mentioned in this, and you actually get to see them. And who else is mentioned and get to see Dante, Vivian, Kai, Isabel, Dominic, Alessandra, Javier, Sloane. You get to see all of them because Sloane is also helps Ayana with her like because Sloane's a publicist, so she helps Ayana with that. And also the university that the 4 girls in the Twisted series called. I always forget what it's called, but that's mentioned quite a lot in this book, and it's just all interconnected, and I absolutely love the Aniverse so much. I will say this, which makes me kind of really sad to say this, but this is probably my least favourite book in the series. I did not hate the book, I did not dislike anything about the book, I don't know, it just wasn't quite giving me the same feeling as the other books. Like all the other books in this series I gave a 4.5 stars or above. I absolutely loved them. This one I gave a 4 stars, which is still very, very good rating. It just didn't hit me the same as the other books. And this isn't saying this is a bad book, because it's not. Phenomenal book. I don't know, it just wasn't the same to me as the other books. I feel like I probably just repeated myself quite a few times in that sentence, but that's how I feel about that book. So those are all the books I have read in April. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do give it a thumbs up. And in the comments below, put which book was your favourite book that you probably read in the month of April. Mine has got to be, I think I really did like Puck and Sweet by Emily Raff. And I loved Watch Me by Tara Maffey. Even though I gave that 4 stars, it was still one of my favourites from the month because being back in the Shatter Me world was just like everything to me. Also, if you haven't already, do subscribe so you can see more videos from me. And I'll see you next time. Bye!